Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So is the screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's saying yes. Can you speak? Can any one of you speak? I'm not able to hear.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay.
Can you hear now? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, not audible. One second.
Yes, Prabhuji.
You are saying Hare Krishna, but I'm.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We can see your screen.
One second. Can you say one more time, Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, perfect. Okay,
Yes, Prabhuji.
good. Sorry, there's some confusion. So, as part of our discussion regarding Purushottama Maas, as we had decided that we will see chapter 15th of Bhagavad Gita. I thought initially that the sessions would have been given by some of us here when we were doing Gita Yajna, either me or Panduranga Prabhu or Balram Prabhu, but I realized that the session was given by Maharaj. So there was no PPT available. So I had to do some more work, but it's always nice to do a deep dive into Bhagavad Gita. So this session is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. So what we will do is, it's a very important chapter and a very interesting and very significant for all of us to read. Of course, it is Purushottam Yoga, but more than the name, which just identifies with the Purushottam Maas, it is the chapter, the way it is constructed and the information shared by Krishna is very, very relevant, very powerful. So we will see this as much of time we have. We will try to understand this chapter. So the context for today's today's chapter, before we go today's session, is a verse from Gita Mahatmya, which is composed by Adi Sankaracharya. It's a very nice verse. Mala nirmochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine sakrat gita mritasnanam samsara malanasanam. Somehow this month is known as Mala Masa. Mala is inauspicious. Of course, we say it is Purushottam Maas, but it is also known as Mala Masam. Mala is impurities or contaminations. So this verse, this is the third verse composed by Adi Sankaracharya in glorification of Bhagavad Gita, where he is saying mala nirmochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine. The impurities, the contaminations of our body can be cleansed. Mala nirmochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine. When we take bath, not just once, but every day, continuously. Even in a day, multiple times. We go out, we do something, we come back, we want to feel fresh, we want to feel rejuvenated, then we take a shower. Right? So, mala nirmochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine. When we take bath every day, then all this mala, they get cleansed of our body. But samsara malanasanam, the mala which is arising, which is coming because of the association with samsara. Samsara mala nasanam. Nasanam is getting destroyed. The mala of samsara can be destroyed, can be completely vanquished. Samsara mala nasanam by Sakrat Gita Amrita Snanam. If we bathe our intellect in Bhagavad Gita even just once, Sakrat Gita Amrita Snanam Samsara Malanasanam. One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of Bhagavad Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. Samsara Malanasanam. I wish we could do Bhagavad Gita study every day. I wish we could dive in our intellect in this wonderful nectar of Bhagavad Gita. But it is very important, very essential for all of us to know the importance of reading, hearing Bhagavad Gita and understanding what Krishna is trying to say. Samsara Malanasanam. There is no other way to cleanse these impurities in our heart, which comes because of the association of this material world. There is no other way. So interestingly, 15th chapter, it is coming after 14th chapter, of course. And 14th chapter is entitled as the three modes of material nature. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, one complete chapter he is dedicating to tell what are the influences of these three modes of material nature on all of us, on the conditioned living entities. Having explained that in great details, elaborately, he comes to 15th chapter where he says how one can come out. Of course, 14th chapter ends with one verse where Krishna is giving a hint as to how one can come out of the influence of the modes of material nature, 14.26, where Krishna says, Maam chayo abhyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Maam chayo abhyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate. He talks about bhakti yoga by engaging in devotional service. But still some questions, doubts may remain. Really, by engaging in devotional service, can I come out? What is the guarantee, and how do I know what is the influence of this modes of three modes of material nature on me, and how difficult or easy it is to come out of this? If anybody has any such doubts, then 15th chapter, Krishna actually further elaborates and explains the influence of these modes of material nature on all of us, and also the process by which we can come out. And when we come out, where do we go? What is the destination? Just coming out is not enough. So what is the destination? All these things are very nicely explained. Even though it is just a small chapter of 20 verses, in terms of sheer depth and knowledge, it's very, very profound. So with that small context, let's get into the chapter directly. This is the first verse of 15th chapter. If you want to chant, you can chant on mute. Very nice verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamulam Adha Shakham Aswatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavet. So often people ask, those of us who are practicing Bhakti Yoga, what about Vedas? You're talking about Bhagavad Gita, you're talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, but what about Vedas? I want to know about Vedas. So actually, Prabhupada, if you see the purport, it starts with something like, what about Vedas? And Prabhupada explains what is Vedas and how one can understand Vedas. This verse, and there is a series of verses that we will see now, are very, very important to understand the predicament, the problems, the challenges that we have in material world, and the solution which Krishna gives afterwards, because it all makes sense when we understand the intensity or the magnitude of problem that we are in. And these verses very nicely explain that. So we will try to go a little deeper because, anyway, we're just doing one chapter. I thought we will go a little slowly and understand this verse as completely as possible. So we will see that. So you see, there is a description of. Just see this picture. You don't have to. I don't want to ask, because if I ask, then all kinds of speculations come. This picture is actually from one of the Upanishads, Kathopanishad. It is not that just Bhagavad Gita is speaking about this. It is also there in the Upanishads, in the Vedas. What we will do is, we will go a little deeper into this verse and try to understand this reference. I'll come to later. Okay. So you just saw the verse. Now we will go a little deeper into the verse to understand what this verse is. Right? If you see the verse again, if you have it in front of you, and see the last line, Krishna is telling, Yastam Veda sa Vedavit. So there is this word which is used by Krishna, Sa Vedavit. Saha in Sanskrit is he. Vedavit, he is a knower of Vedas. So because people ask, what about Vedas? So how do we know what about Vedas when somebody says, oh, you are not reading Vedas? So if somebody says this verse, actually Krishna says directly, who is Vedavit? Who is a knower of Veda? Who is a knower of Veda? The previous line, that too, is saying, Yastam Veda sa Vedavit. The word Veda means to know. So Yastam Veda, that person who knows certain things is called Vedavit. Yastam Veda sa Vedavit. So what he knows? If he knows the following things, which we saw. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha is the Lord saying. He is telling about 5 things. Interestingly. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdha Moolam. First thing. Urdha Moolam. Urdha Moolam means, Urdha means upwards. Moolam means roots. So imagine a tree whose roots are upwards. Urdha Moolam. Adha Shakham. Adha is downwards. Shakham is branches. Urdha Moolam, Adha Shakham. Aswatham Avdyayam. Each of these words are very important. Aswatham Avdyayam Chandansi Yasya Parnani. There is one word which I have removed from this verse, and that word is called Prahur. Aswatham Prahur Avdyayam, that verse is. Prahur means it is said. So Krishna, even though he himself is speaking, but he's saying this is said, that person is Vedavit, or he is a knower of Vedas, who knows Yastam Veda, who knows the following things. What is that? Urdha Moolam. He knows about a tree whose roots are upwards. Adha Shakham, whose branches are downwards. Now this kind of a tree we never see in our experience of, doesn't matter where we go, where we see, whatever we see. We don't see a tree which has got, the roots upwards and the branches downwards. Urdha Moolam, Adha Shakham, Aswatham. Interestingly, in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if you see the opulences of the Absolute, there are about 82 different ways Krishna lists how we can remember him. So among the trees, Krishna says his aswatha trees. So urdha moolam adha shakam aswatham avyayam. Now avyayam is a very important word. We will see how important that is. Vyaya means something which gets depleted, degraded. Vyaya ho raha hai uska. It's getting destroyed. Avyayam. Avyayam means it is imperishable. It's not getting destroyed. It is not getting diminished. It is not getting reduced. There is a tree. Anything which is there in this material world degrades. It comes to an end. I mean, anybody who has taken birth in this material world comes with a stamp. This many number of years we're going to live. Our body degrades, deteriorates. It becomes weak, and gradually we dwindle. We die. Same holds true. None of us are carrying a mobile which is 20 years old. The mobile that we were carrying at that point in time, if at all, or we were having some phones, now we are having something else. And this also doesn't last forever. Everything changes. Everything is getting destroyed, getting degraded. But this is mentioned avyayam. Avyayam. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Urdha Moolam Adha Shakam Aswatham Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani. Now this Chandamsi Yasya Parnani. Parnani is leaves. Chandamsi Yasya Parnani is a very beautiful thing. You see, if there is a tree, imagine this tree, look at this picture of tree which doesn't have any leaves. Does it look beautiful in any way? No. The devotees today had gone for seeing the fall colors. The colors of the leaves change. But still the leaves are there in the trees. Nobody is going to go and see if the trees have fallen down to see that, oh, okay, now come to see that. The trees, when the tree, when it has got the leaves on it, looks more attractive, beautiful. Chandamsi yasya parnani. So there are these Vedic injunctions. There are these Vedic. There are these portions of Vedas which say, if you do this, then you'll achieve this. Looks very attractive. Now I want a nice job. I want to have a nice house. So there are injunctions by which, if I do certain things, then I can achieve that. A nice wife, a nice position, all these things, you do certain things and you can achieve that. So Chandamsi Yasya Paranani. So this tree, it is so attractive because of the leaves. And these leaves are Chandamsi Yasya Paranani. Actually, the word toward the beginning of that is Vedic hymns, Yasya Paranani. The leaves of this tree are the Vedic hymns. So where do we find such tree? And Prabhupada actually explains that it is only possible. You don't find this kind of tree in the normal material world, but you see a reflection of a tree. It is appearing that the tree's roots are upwards and the branches are downwards. So it is only when there is another tree where something is there next to a water body or something and the reflection is falling that we can see some such shape. So far so good. Now I told about few other things in this avyayam. Interestingly, this tree is imperishable. It cannot be. It remains. It perpetually remains. There is no degradation of this. That is why. So this word avyayam, we will see again, and when we go further, that why Krishna's instruction is so important. Had it been like a normal tree or any other material product in this material world, which has a beginning and a middle and an end, we would not have worried so much. But this is avyayam. Actually, in the 5 eternal truths which Prabhupada mentions in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, one is Prakriti, which is also eternal. So material nature is eternal. It always exists. That is how the things become more complicated and interesting. We will see that. But I was showing that picture earlier of Krishna he's there beyond the roots. He's not part of this tree. He's beyond this roots. And the beginning of this tree actually happens with Brahma. We will see this. But if you want some reference for Krishna being beyond the roots or beyond this material creation from Bhagavad Gita itself, there are two verses. One is this Chatushlaki Bhagavad Gita. One of these verses is Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matta Sarvam Pravartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvita. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. I am the Lord of everyone. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matta Sarvam Pravartate. Everybody surrenders to me. Matta Sarvam Pravartate. Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvita. An intelligent man, a person who is Buddha, who is knowledgeable, he actually engages in devotional service to me, knowing this. Iti Matva Bhajante Mam, engages in devotional service, Buddha Bhava Samanvita. And there is another verse, 14.4, where Krishna says, Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahad Yonir Aham Bija Pradah Pita. Bija Prada, I am the seed giving father. If there is a tree, there is a seed which is given, that seed giving father is Krishna. He is beyond all this material creation. Okay, now let's see. This is a very interesting picture. I'll come back to this when we go further and understand this picture with respect to this, the verses that we are talking, and it is very, very powerful. Because Krishna is saying just by knowing this, one becomes Vedavid. So now we knew this, now we understood what is it. Urdha Moolam Adha Shakam Aswatham Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savidavit. So just because we knew this doesn't mean we have understood everything. It is like you are seeing an X-ray, and the X-ray of your bodily part, and the doctor is showing that this is your chest or this is your lungs. This is how it is functioning. This is the problem. But unless the doctor also says that these are the things that you have to study or see, and this is how you have to understand what you are seeing, what observations you are making, that X-ray is of no use. So like that, just because we understood Urdha Moolam Adha Shakam Aswatham Avyayam Chandam Siyasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavit is not sufficient unless we hear the commentaries of our acharyas, especially Srila Prabhupada, and how he has explained this. Now to understand and to know this little more, let's go to the second verse and see what is the connection and what exactly Krishna is telling in the second verse of this chapter. So the second verse is Adas Chodham Prasratas Tasya Sakha Guna Prabruddha Vishaya Pravalaha Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Karmanubandhini Manusya Loke. Let me read the translation because some of you are seeing for the first time or you may not even know. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Now, to understand this a little more closely, what exactly this verse is, and what is the connection with the first verse that we read. If you go back and pay attention to the first verse, Krishna is talking about Urdha Moolam Adha Shakam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani. He didn't talk about what those branches are. He's talking about Urdha Moolam Adha Shakam. The Sakhas are downwards. But what did this branches represent? He didn't say that. And that is explained in the second verse here. And this is very, very important to know. If you break down the verse, second verse, so he's telling Tasya Sakha. Now, what kind of branches are there in this tree? What are the branches representing? Adas Chordham Prashratas Tasya Sakha. That Tasya Sakha, the branches of this tree have got this following characteristics. Guna Prabruddha, Vishaya Pravala, and Prasratas. If you see the word-to-word meaning of Prasratas, it is extended. It is like it is going in all possible directions. Interestingly, Adas and Urdham. Adas cha Urdham. Sorry, I did ulta. Adas cha Urdham. The branches of this tree is going up and down. Adas cha Urdham. But very interestingly, if you see this verse, Krishna is telling Tasya Sakha Guna Prabruddha. Prabruddha, if you see the word, it has got a word called a Briddhi. Briddhi means which enhances, which increases, or which kind of nourishes. Tasya Sakha Guna Prabruddha. Tasya Sakha means the branch becomes enlivened, or the branch increases. New branches come out by Guna Prabruddha, by watering. What is the watering process of Guna? There's three modes of material nature. If you do not know what three modes of material nature is, how it works, one entire chapter is dedicated in 14th chapter. But very interestingly, there are these three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. They act on us. And when they act on us, Guna Prabruddha, the sakhas, they branch. Therefore, the new branches come. They become, prasritas, means they are extending, they are increasing. And that is all happening because of Guna Prabhupada, because of this three modes of material nature which are acting on conditioned living entities. Tasya Sakha Guna Prabhupada Vishaya Pravalaha. Vishaya doesn't mean it is some subject. Vishaya actually means the sense objects. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned the difference between Visha and Vishaya. Visha actually finishes the existence of a living entity in this material world, separates the body from the soul. Vishaya actually keeps him entangled in this material world lifetime after lifetime. Vishaya Pravalaha. Pravalaha is unlimited desires for sense gratification. Tasya Sakha Guna Prabruddha Vishaya Pravalaha Prasritas. The three adjectives which are used. Vishaya Pravalaha that is why actually, if you see these words are used even in Bhagavatam, Guna Prabruddha. There is this, the modes of material nature, they act on us and they just sweep us away. They just carry us. They just, we helplessly get carried away by them. And Vishaya Pravala, and more it is compounded by the unlimited desires. So that is why Prashrutas, the branches are extending, Adhas Chaurdham, going down as well as going up. Now, how can the branches go up and down both? In a tree, we see either the branches are going up. Maybe I've not seen, maybe there are trees which have got some branches going down. Now, that is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita at two different places, how the modes of material nature, when they act, either we can go up or we can come down. Two examples of that, two verses where Krishna says about this. One is 13th chapter, 22nd verse. Purusha prakriti sthohi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangasya sad asad yoni janmasu. Karanam gunasanga. Gunasanga is referring to when we come in association of this guna prabruddha, the modes of material nature. Based on which modes of material nature we are associating, sad asad yoni janmasu, we take birth either in a higher species of life or in the lower species of life. Something similar is also mentioned in the 14th chapter. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa Jaganya gunavrittistha adho gachanti tamasa. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha. Person who is situated in the mode of goodness, urdhvam, he goes upwards. Madhye tishtati rajasa. People who are under the influence of modes of passion, they remain in the material, in the middle planet. Madhye tishtanti rajasa. Jaganya gunavrittistha adho gachanti tamasa. Who are engaging in all kinds of abominable activities. Adho gachanti tamasa. So if you see that picture earlier, which I was showing, in this there are branches which are going upwards and there are some which are going downwards. So downwards going means somebody is taking birth in the lower species of life. Like you see, there are some animals, insects, and those kind of things. And if somebody is situated in the mode of goodness, he's going upwards. Upwards means going towards this, the highest of this being Brahma, who's situated in Brahma Loka. So he's taking birth in the higher planetary system, the upper planetary systems. So this is Adha and Urdhva. Both are there in that Shakha. Prashrutas, they are very complicated, they are extended nicely, and these are nourished by Guna Prabruddha, by the three modes of material nature when we are acting under the influence of this. That is why Krishna says in the previous chapter as well as in this chapter that we should try to come out of this influence of three modes of material nature. And when we are acting under this modes of the influence of these three modes of material nature, either we are degrading ourselves or we are elevating ourselves. Okay, then there are two more things which Krishna mentions in that verse. Tasya mulani adha cha anusantatani karmanubandhini manusya loke. Tasya mulani. Here the mulani is not referring to the roots which I've already discussed in the first verse. Here the word mulani is referring to the cause of this whole thing. Why it is happening is tasya mulani adha cha anusantatani. Anusantatani is, if you see the word meaning of Prabhupada is saying, extended. Anusantatani. Anu means to go after someone, or it is like there is a rubber which is getting extended. Adha cha anusantatani. The lower, the life in the lower branches is getting extended. Adha cha anusantatani. How? Karmanu bandhini manusya loke. Karmanu bandhini manusya loke. Karmanu bandhini. Anubandhini. Person when he is bound. Manusya loke. When he is bound to work. When he is bound to work under the influence of this Guna Prabruddha and Vishaya Pravala. Then adhacha anusantatani, then he is dragged to the lower species of life and remains in this lower species of life. That is a cause for the people to remain in this material world. Sometimes when we break down the words and see exactly the word-to-word meaning and what exactly it is trying to say, then the verse becomes more alive. It talks to us then. So adha chanusantatani karmanubandhini manusya loke. If you see in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 9th verse, Yagyarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Yagyarthat karmana. Yagya means refers to Vishnu or Krishna. Yagyarthat karmana. Our activities in life should only be directed to please Yagya or to please Vishnu. Yagyarthat karmana anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. All other activities bound us. Karmanu bandhini manusya loke. So yagyarthat karmana anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. That not just binds us in this material world. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. If somebody works only for the pleasure of Yagya or Vishnu, Mukta Sangha Samachara, then the doors of liberation becomes open. Mukta Sangha Samachara. So that is why Krishna very specifically and categorically says in third chapter, Yagyarthat Karmano. Work should only be done for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Vishnu. So having spoken about this tree, understanding the roots and then the branches which are extending downwards and what feeds or nourishes the branches or what is actually giving strength to these branches, Guna Prabruddha and Vishaya Pravala, and then how this is Prasrutas. Next, what Krishna says, let's try to understand. Third verse, Krishna is telling, Na rupam asyeyaha tathopalabhyate nanto nachadir nachasam pratishtha aswatham enam suviruddha moolam asanga sastrena dridhena chitva. It's a very, very powerful verse, very important, very interesting verse. Na rupam asya iha tathopalabhyate. So if we break down this verse, the first line is telling, Krishna is telling, Na rupam asya iha tathopalabhyate. Upalabhyate. Upalabhyate means to understand this tree. Na rupam asya iha tathopalabhyate. We cannot understand this tree, or we cannot understand this complicated material existence. Neither we can see this. Na rupam asya iha tathopalabhyate. Neither we can understand nor we can see it. Why? Because na anto na cha adir na cha sampratishtha. Na anto. There is no end of this tree. It's an endless tree. Na anto na cha adir. There is no beginning of this tree. Nanto na cha adir na cha sampratishtha. Where it is fixed, how it is situated, we don't know. The rupam asyeha tathopalabhyate nanto na cha adir na cha sampratishtha. So this entire tree which Krishna is describing here is nothing but our material existence, where we are sometimes going upwards, sometimes we are going downwards, sometimes we are getting attracted by these leaves, which is promising us some sense gratification, and we are constantly in this endless tree, avyayam, which is imperishable, which doesn't perish. We are there in this tree, stuck. Actually, in elsewhere, Prabhupada says there are probably 3 reasons why we are stuck in this kind of a material tree. First is that we are accepting ourselves as body. That is called word. Tadatmya. Tadatmya. So tadatmya means atmya, tada atmya. So considering that to be me. Since we are considering this body to be myself, is the first cause of bondage or remaining in this. Your screen is paused. Are you able to see? Okay. So tadatmya means to consider ourselves to be body. Fully, deeply, strongly feeling that I am this body. My whole existence is just meant for the satisfaction of this body. Knowing very well that Krishna has already told in 2nd chapter, series of verses. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yoganam jara tatha dehantara prapte dhirastatra namuhyati. Or avinasi tu tad vidhi yena tatamidam sarvam vinasam abhyayasyasya nakaschit kartum arhati. Avinasi tu tad vidhi. Actually, we are not perishable. But we strongly identify ourselves with this body, and we just satisfy the bodily needs, the demands of the body, and that becomes our sole goal, tadatmya. Second thing Krishna says why we remain in this material world or in this material existence is because of mamata. Aham mameti. This is me, this is mine. This is me and this is mine. This is, I am this body, and these are all my bodily relatives. These are all my bodily possessions. I've got all these things. Everything belongs to me. Aham mameti, mamata. And the third thing is our vasana, or the desires that we saw that in the previous verse, Vishaya Pravalaha. So those desires to achieve, desires to remain in this material world, only solely thinking about that, then we get, stuck in this complicated mess of birth and death, in this inverted trees, where sometimes we are going up, going down, but stuck. It's avyayam, imperishable, and there is na anta, na adir, na cha sampratishtha. We can't see this, we can't understand this. There is no end, there is no beginning. Na cha sampratishtha. Where it is fixed, we don't know. And that is why this line of the 3rd verse, where Krishna is saying, Aswatham enam su viruddha moolam asanga sastrena dridhena chitva. It's very, very important, very interesting. A few days back, actually, in our temple here, around the temple, we were cutting some trees, unwanted trees which had grown to disproportionate size, were hindrance, were blocking the views, and we thought of getting rid of them. So when we were cutting these trees, one thing which we realized is that these trees cannot be uprooted. These are so strong, the roots of these trees are so deeply gone, you can't uproot them. Even if you're a very powerful, strong person, you can't uproot them. That is why chitwa, it has to be cut. Here also Krishna is telling that if there is no solution, if we are just stuck in a helpless condition, then there is no point reading even Bhagavad Gita. Why? Let's just keep going. Krishna is saying there is a solution, there is a way. Chitwa, it has to be cut. So how it has to be cut? That's why the word chitwa is very important. He's telling asanga sastrena dridhena chitwa. If you see, the word here used is aswatham enam su virudha moolam. So the word rudha, virudha moolam, the roots are deep, strong. That is why two adjectives are used by Krishna. Asanga sastrena. Asanga sastrena is the weapon of detachment. No, actually, the moment we have attachment for something, when we lose that, then the pain or the the suffering, the misery because of losing something with which we are too closely attached or too deeply attached is too much. Anyway, in life, one day will come where where everything will be taken away from us. Whatever we are saying is mine, whatever I claim that it belongs to me will be taken away. Now, why wait till that point in time where by the effect of Kala, by the will of providence, everything is taken away? Why not have that asanga sastrena with the weapon of detachment? And that detachment weapon also has to be dridhena. Dridhena is a very important word. If it is not dridhena, Prabhupada uses the word, what the word meaning is determination. What does he use for the time? Strong. But in the word to word, in the translation, determination. So it requires some amount of determination. Asanga sastrena dridhena chitva. Determination or strong. Now, what is that dridha? Dridha thing is to be fixed. I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, I'm part and parcel of the Lord. I've got nothing to do with this material world. Because I'm identifying myself with this body, I'm stuck here and I'm going through this complicated mess of birth and death. Punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathane sayanam. I'm again taking, and it's all continuing because of one very strong thing is our desires. The desires that we have, actually, if I show you that picture that I was showing earlier, if I'm just going a little back and forth, but you can see the whole reflection is existing here because of the desire. Because of the water body, which is called desire, the whole reflection is here. Because I want to enjoy independent of Krishna, and not just independent of Krishna, in various ways, this way, in that way. And that is actually, extending, or that is actually elongating our existence in this material world. Krishna in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, tejate ante kalevaram, tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam, smaram, whatever we remember, the state, the time of death. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam, tejate ante kalevaram. With that feeling, with that, oh, I remember maybe I'll eat more gulab jamun, I'm still unsatisfied, I need to eat. I'll take birth again in the next life to eat those gulab jamuns. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram. Kalevaram is this body, tyajate. When whatever state we are quitting this body, whatever way, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram, tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. That state, that life we get in the next life. We were seeing the discussion of Bharat Maharaj, how he was attached to a deer just because of that one small attachment to a deer. That too, it was very genuine. I mean, the deer was, there was an orphan. I mean, the mother had a miscarriage and she died. And out of compassion, Bharat Maharaj thought that I should take care of him. And then he got attached and attracted to it, and he quit his body thinking, remembering this deer, took birth as a deer. So the desire is a very, very deep-rooted thing which keeps us in this material. I have unfulfilled desire to see, enjoy, to do, to experiment, to all those things. Only it becomes the cause of our bondage. It only becomes the cause of our perpetual existence in this material world. So Krishna is telling asanga sastrena dridhena chiptva. Dridhena is also used by Prabhupada in the second chapter, 41st verse, where he uses this word vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahu sakha hi anantascha buddhayo avyavasayana. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha, with a single pointed determination, attracted. My consciousness is, I have to direct it towards Krishna. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahu sakha hi anantascha buddhayo avyavasayana. If it is many branched, if it is too many things, too many agendas, too many priorities in life, very difficult to come to that state. Because it is virudha moolam, the roots are very deep. So it is not just asanga sastrena dridhena chittva. It has to be very sharp weapon which can cut it. Other day we were trying to cut that tree. It was not easy. It was extremely difficult to cut this tree. Unless the weapon is the axe or whatever we are using is very sharp, it cannot be cut. So a few more reflection on this verse. If you see, we just saw this verse on the left side of 15.3. Narupam asyeha tathopalabhyate nanto nacha adir nacha sampratishtha aswattha menam so virudha moolam asanga sastrena dridhena chittva. So he is telling in this material world, this tree, nacho antar nacha adir na pratishtha. So there is no end, there is no beginning, and where it is situated we don't know. But elsewhere Krishna says aham atma gudakesha sarva bhuta sayasthitaha aham adischa madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha. I am the beginning, I am the middle, and I am the end. One place we are seeing, if we are there in this material world, in this material existence, we don't know from where we came and since when we are here. We have no idea. If somebody asks, where did you come from? Or since when you are here? We have no answer. But Krishna is telling, aham adischa madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha. So these are some of the important, so this is 10.20. And this is the pictorial representation of having a sharp instrument to cut this tree, which is so deep rooted, and it is so difficult to come out of this, and it is only possible by using a sharp axe or a weapon. Krishna of course says further important characteristics of what the person should possess. And when he cuts this attachment, where he goes, what happens, we will see that in the next class. I'll not go because this itself is a lot of things. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
हाँ ऐसे करके ध्यान से देख रहा होता अभी क्या करेगी ये मैडम अभी गाड़ी निकालेगी
It's a reflection of the spiritual tree. So it like that picture which says that Brahma is there on the top, that is Brahmaloka, and then it is going down. All this Bhur Bhuva Swaha, everything is there in this tree. This is an inverted banyan tree, which is a reflection of the spiritual tree. And the entire 3 planetary systems are there in this, including all of us who are there. Pardon. The leaves refers to the Karmakandya portion of the scriptures. They look attractive. We get attracted by that, and we remain here in this. Are we going to discuss the story you mentioned in what is that story here? Which is in Bhagavatam 11th canto. Which one, Vibhu? Which story are you referring to? Pingala. Okay. We can discuss, but not right now. That itself is actually this is part of the 24 gurus of Avadhut Brahmana, where he considered Pingala to be one of his guru. Very interesting. Without physically meeting, even some inanimate objects, even some animal became his guru. So one of them was Pingala. We'll see some other time. Real form of this tree cannot be perceived. Yeah. Since when we came, where we came, since when we are here, we can't trace it. Anadi karma pada divanisi hiyajare. That's what it is. Since when, how many lifetimes, what has happened, we can't trace it. Even to perceive this is not easy. That is why saying just asanga sastrena, you don't know the roots, you can't uproot this, just cut it. Asanga sastrena dridena chittva. No questions?
Prabhuji, only one question is there.
Yes.
When you explain, it is understood well, but when you come to the practical aspect, we are unable to do it, unable to follow it, how to go about it. That is my question.
So you have to pay attention to these instructions of Krishna. Right? He's telling Asanga Sastrena Dridhena Chitta. Now if we are not Dridha, and if we are not using the weapons of detachment, you can't cut it.
But
If you
प्रभु
don't,
जी ममता आ जाती है ना, इसका क्या करें? ये ममता को कैसे छोड़े? ये नहीं छोड़ रहा है.
उसके लिए you have to develop your intelligence. Intelligence is the advancement of a devotee can be seen by his developed intellect. So intelligence has this function of discrimination and determination both. Now mamta is not unusual, or nobody is saying that don't remain in your family life and just cut ke sab ko chale jao. Not like that. But the idea of detachment is required. Like Prabhupada gives the example that all of us are like prisoners in a prison house. Right? In a prison, when you are there in a prison, you would not want to live in that prison house for long. You need to have good behavior with everyone. You need to conduct yourself well so that you can come out of it. But you need not attach, you need not get attached to the other inmates or whoever is the security person and all. Or you need not make some permanent arrangement of settling down there with all your paraphernalia. That's not what it is meant for. That understanding is very important for all of us. Even though I'm surrounded by my my loved family members, my near and dear ones, none of them are permanent. So this mamata is actually a covering of ignorance. As I said, since none of us in this material world are permanent, including our near and dear ones, one day or other we will be taken away. Now all these relationships, all these attachments will be snapped. That is why Krishna is telling Asanga Sastrena, it is very important to develop attachment to Krishna. And we will see in subsequent verses how when somebody doesn't have this intelligence, developed intelligence, what happens to him. And Krishna says that. I know it is not easy, but At the same time, it is not difficult if we follow the instructions very carefully. I don't know if this helps, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'll try.
Is it good when one knows previous lifetimes to find our inclinations and advance in Krishna consciousness? Is it if it has always helped, then why we are not blessed with advance from Paramatma? You answer the question. We will. No, the reason is, see, these are all exceptions. This Bharat Maharaj and Gajendra and all. Imagine your plight in one life to handle the complexities, the difficulties and the challenges and the reversals and the complications and relationships and so many things in this life itself is too much. On top of that, you have the memory of being someone else in your previous life and seeing them probably in this life and then again trying to go and do some things over there. It's actually, that is why Krishna in this 15th chapter itself, we will see this. It will come a little further. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyam vedanta krit vedavit chaham eva chaham eva. Okay, so there is apohanam. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. From me remembrance comes, from me intelligence comes, from me forgetfulness also comes. Krishna deliberately makes us forget that. Otherwise, to live in this conditioned life. See, what is the problem in this question? Sometimes people ask this question. Imagine what Prabhupada's answer has been. And we should know this and just apply that in our life. Imagine if you're fallen in a deep well. You've fallen down and you're struggling. You don't know swimming. And you're shouting there, help, help, help. And somebody is throwing a rope that, you hold this and you can come out. You're saying, I'll only catch the rope if I know who has pushed me or who has thrown me into this. So, or if I only find out what I did, what happened to me in my previous lives, then only I'll know. It's not necessary. It's not helpful in any way. Important thing to understand is that I'm in a deep well. I'm struggling. Whatever rescue or respite is coming, I should catch hold of it, come out of it. Okay, if no further questions, we will stop here. And see you tomorrow. Can I request all of you to come in front of your camera and raise your hands, and we will chant once Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Go ahead.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.